So, the following is pretty gross, pretty awful, and you should consume it at your own sort of like well-being. Just so you know, some of the things I'm gonna say here are so grotesque and so awful that I actually had to think about it twice before I chose to go forward with it. Now, they're very, very important with respect to persuasion and what I teach, and that's precisely what I'm using these examples. That's why I'm talking about this, because it's such a stark vision and it's such a deep dive into the sick and twisted mind of certain human beings that, with respect to the lesson as a whole, persuasion that is, I've chosen to talk about it. And no, this is not something that I found on the dark web or whatever. These are from open source. These are from open sources. You can actually go Google them or look them up on some artificial intelligence large language model yourself. Anyway, so let's start with maybe the most horrendous example, really. And that was a sick and twisted woman in France is allegedly, according to the documents, according to the court documents, she's accused of freezing down two of her newly born babies. Like giving birth to two newly born babies and putting them in the freezer. Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And here's what's worse. These weren't twinned babies. These were babies who were born during two separate pregnancies, which means that she had plenty of time to plot and think through her horrible deeds, right? So, supposedly according to the story, some family member was tasked with cleaning up in the freezer, and then they made this macabre discovery, right? Now, what went through that woman's mind, I don't know. I don't even want to speculate. Such things are actually demonic. That's what they are. This is pure demonic work. These are demons at work. I'm saying it on the record. These are demons at work. And really, I think maybe this is, I don't know. I'm kind of torn if this is worse than abortion or not. But whatever. It's kind of like a sick and twisted way of doing abortion, really. Anyway. So that's number one. Example number two is some guy in Dubai, some sheikh in Dubai, actually, I believe it was, some rich billionaire, sent to Jeffrey Epstein a video. And Jeffrey Epstein wrote back saying, "Thank you for the torture video," which is kind of gross. You wonder, what sort of torture video are we talking about? What sort of sick and twisted person is this who sends Jeffrey Epstein a torture video, albeit back in 2009, but at that time he'd been convicted actually for some of the crimes that he was accused of doing. And this person obviously knew that he was doing something wrong. Now, number three is, this might be, maybe this is the most horrendous example, really, if you just think about it. But the day after his indictment, the day after getting detained in 2018, Jeffrey Epstein allegedly ordered some 300,000 gallons of sulfuric acid to his island. And also some concrete mixers. Now you wonder, given the knowledge that there was a lot of child abuse there, or the allegations, that there was a lot of child abuse there, kidnappings, you wonder, would he use that sulfuric acid to dispose of his bodies, of all the bodies that were floating around, burying them in some bunker that he was building? I mean, somebody put it this way. If you get detained and you know that this is it, now I'm going down because now they're going to find out everything that I've done, are you going to order a concrete mixer as one of the first things? Are you going to order sulfuric acid? I certainly wouldn't have done that. I would be on the phone with my lawyers and, thinking about other stuff, not about potentially dissolving the dead bodies that I've potentially stacked on that island. And again, this is just speculations. These are just allegations with respect to that French court case, which appears to be valid. These are just my speculations. But they're open source speculations, so you can go and verify it yourself. Anyway, the point of all this, from a perspective, what drives somebody to do something like that? How are people persuaded by their sick and evil thoughts and twisted minds to do something like that? Whether it's killing children, kidnapping children, raping, etc., etc., right? It kind of reminds me of that Sick and Twisted movie that I saw way back in the day, or actually those Sick and Twisted movies called Hostel, where a group of American and, foreign tourists and backpackers go on some trip to Slovakia and get kidnapped and tortured. And it turns out there's a whole syndicate of people doing these sick and twisted auctions where they're bidding on other people's kids. And then these people send their kids off. And then the kids get kidnapped and tortured and, killed. Horrible stuff. Anyway. So it wasn't just, this is kind of like the live version or the real-time version of Hostel. Truly awful, horrible stuff. Anyway, persuasion is a strong weapon that can be used in both ways. And this is a way that persuasion is used for all the wrong reasons. I have a sick and twisted mind. What can I do that's horrible to people? What can I do to kill people? That's how strong the weapon of persuasion is. Don't use it for that. Use it for something good. That's obviously the lesson here. If you want to learn more about persuasion, then get subscribed to my email list. The link to this is on the episode description wherever you're watching and or listening to this. And I'll see you there.